Hello everybody, we are now into the last lesson in your textbook, the great stone face. You have already heard about the great stone face, so this is nothing new to you. But we are now looking at the second part of the story. The great stone face has already introduced you to certain words. You understand the word prophecy, expectations. People have lots of expectations, hope, and so on. But before we go into the lesson, let's ask one or two things. When you travel, when you go out, and when you see a hill, does that hill look like something? Maybe an elephant or elephant face, or maybe like a tiger, or maybe like a pig, or like any other thing. And so, it is possible that when we look at hills, we can think of a few things. That's our imagination. It tells us that, this, when you look at it from one side, it looks like a bull. I have seen such hills. I'm sure you must have also seen such hills. It looks like a bull. This looks like a human face. Or this looks like Lord Hanuman, and so on. Very interesting. Next time, when you go on a tour, you must watch all these hills. They tell you a story, and you might create a story yourself. Take a picture. As you can see, a picture of the great stone face in your text. Have you all opened the book? Good. Open it at Unit 10. And who is the person we are talking about in these stories? His name is Ernest. Ernest is now an old man. Very well grown, senior, elderly, and a wonderful person to look at. He has wrinkles on his forehead. You know this part of the face? F-O-R-E-H-E-A-D. The pronunciation is not forehead, but it is forehead. Forehead. All of you say it? Forehead. On the forehead, and if you look at your grandmother, great-grandmother, or anyone old in your house or in your village, you can find lots of wrinkles. They come like that. Right. Those are called wrinkles. And so, on Ernest's face also, now there are wrinkles on the cheeks and maybe on the forehead, but he looks very bright. Still looking very bright. Wonderful man. So, we have seen lots of wrinkles elsewhere. Good. When you see those wrinkles, you don't have wrinkles at all. You're all young children, young boys and girls. Look at each other, no wrinkles at all, not yet. No. But you sit with these old people with wrinkles and ask them. They will tell you stories and stories and stories, plenty of them. And it's so nice. Touch them, it's so good. Take pictures and take a selfie there, and it's so nice. Good. Okay, look at the great stone face. Look at the picture on the page. Good. You can see the great stone face. That hill looks as if it has a great stone face. It has a face. Good. Now, let's start. Ernest is now very famous. Look at page 133. Turn the page over, look at page 133. He is very famous, he is very well known. Lots of people know him. Very cool. And always thinking. A cool, thinking old man. Good thoughts. Always in noble thoughts. Very calm, very collected. And people loved him. And over the years, he had acquired a lot of knowledge. So, lots of people came from all kinds of places to meet him, to sit with him, to talk to him, to listen to him, and just spend time with him. And such a great man, and they were very happy. So lots of people came. And one day, there was this poet who lived in a far off place, who had written lots of books, and he also wanted to come and meet Ernest. Now Ernest also wanted to meet him because Ernest was very fond of that poet. In fact, he had a collection of poems from that poet which he was reading and enjoying it. And so, it so happens that one of those days, that poet came to see Ernest. He was very happy. He saw the great stone face, and he also saw Ernest. Ernest, at that moment, you remember the prophecy. The prophecy was that somebody will come whose face will resemble the great stone face, and that man will be the great stone face. And that was the prophecy. Everybody believed in that, and for that moment, when Ernest saw this man, he said, "Ah, what a face, what a person. Maybe he could be the great stone face." Possibly. Ernest thought for a second. And so, the poet, when he comes and meets Ernest, they are very happy. They sit for a long time, and the poet says, "I'm a traveler. May I stay here for the night?" Oh, Ernest is thrilled to have this poet as his guest. He says, "Certainly, sir. You must stay with me." And so they go on talking for a long time, and Ernest was all the time thinking that here is a guest who will be the great stone face. They talk, and they talk for a long time. Can you see that picture there? And it also looked like that picture on page 134. It looked like the great stone face, that hill, was also interested in what they were talking, and it looks like he's peeping to see what they were saying to each other, and that kind of interest on. Oh my God, the whole picture is so beautiful. So, "Who are you, my guest?" asks Ernest. For a moment, he's thinking that this guest will be the great stone face. Remember that. Remember that. So, the poet looks at him and says, "Oh, I'm a poet. You see that book which you're holding in your hand? That was written by me. I'm that poet." "Oh, is that so? Okay. I thought that with your arrival, the great stone face would have been found." The poet looks at him, says, "No, my friend. I have written that book of poem, but I'm not worthy of the great stone face. Because although I have written those poems which you like very much, but I'm not a very happy man. I am a very disturbed kind of man, and so, no, I'm not fit to be the great stone face." Ernest was very disappointed. Turn the page over. Come to page 135. You can see Ernest very disappointed. And so he says, "Oh my God, what do we do now? I thought we had found the great stone face." Okay. All that we do is we'll wait and wait and wait for somebody to come. Good. Look at the middle of the page there, top, third paragraph. "The poet spoke sadly, and his eyes were wet with tears." so too were those of Ernest. Now, every day Ernest used to go to the yard, front yard there, sit and talk. And lots of people came. They also sat down and they wanted to listen to him, listen to his words, listen to Ernest's noble thoughts, all that Ernest used to say. And they were very happy, calm, quiet, so nice. And so that evening, Ernest takes this poet also there. He goes there. Already people have come there and they all sit there, and Ernest spoke. Very clear, pure, honest, but very deep, full of knowledge, full of information. And he spoke. And the sun was setting. And where they were sitting, the poet could see the great stone face, that hill. He could see Ernest sitting here, and he could see this setting sun and the sunlight which was falling on Ernest's face. He could see all three. So the poet could see Ernest's bright eyes, he could see the setting sun, he could also see the great stone face. All of them he could see at the same time. And as the sunshine shone on Ernest's eyes, there was a shine in the eyes. And the poet looked at the great stone face and looked at Ernest, and he shouted in joy. And people were very surprised. They all stood up. What? He said, the great stone face, Ernest. Wow. So Ernest is the great stone face? Yes, the prophecy has come true. And who is that person who looks exactly like the great stone face? Nobody else but Ernest. There was joy everywhere. All the people rejoiced. They danced. They were very happy. Oh, we have found the great stone face. He is our own Ernest. But Ernest was calm. You can see the picture on page 136, where everybody is rejoicing, and you can see the face of Ernest, and you can also see the great stone face. But Ernest, not the happiest of men, he said, okay, if that is so, okay. Although I wish somebody had been found who looked exactly like the great stone face, but everybody is saying this, and so that is where the story ends. So the great stone face has been found. And who else? None else but our own Ernest, one amongst us. Good. Did you like the story? Yeah? Possible? Somebody looking like the great stone face? Good. Now, before we go further, let me ask you, who has written the story? Ernest Hemingway, great American writer. But what I want you to know is, underneath his name, there is another word. And what is that word? Abridged. What is the meaning of abridged? Abridged is making a long story short. A shortened story. A shortened version of the long story is an abridged story. So this is shortened from a longer story. But did you like the story? Very much. Very nice. What did you like about Ernest? Can you tell me some words? Ernest was elderly, calm, cool. We also say composed, thinking, And what kind of thinking? Noble thoughts, lot of knowledge, lot of information, knew many things, and so on and so forth. Now that we have read the story, let's go one step further. Shall we look at the comprehension check exercise? All right, come to page 136. Here you have to say whether it is true or false, and there are a number of statements made, and so you can say which one is true and which one is false. Are you ready? All right. It says, Ernest's words reminded people of the wise old sayings. Ernest's words reminded people of the good old wise old saying. True or false? Good. True. Good. Ernest was known as that. Let's do one more and then move on to next. Total strangers far away who visited Ernest in the valley found his face familiar. True or false? Not sure? They looked at his face and looked at something else. And so they saw something relating between the two. What was that? Good. And therefore, it was the stone face. Somehow they felt that probably his face looked like the great stone face. And so is the statement true? Yes, it is true. Now you can do the rest on your own. Let's go a little further. Answer the following questions. Are you ready? I'm sure they won't be very difficult for you, I suppose. How was Ernest different from the others in the valley? How was he different from the others? Good, yeah. He looked different. His thinking was different. His mind was different. His way of talk was different, and so on. So you can give a number of such examples. Why did Ernest think the poet was like the stone face? Good, and so on. You can answer all these questions yourselves now. Later on, sit with your friends, and you can, now that you know the story very well, you can ask all these questions. They won't be very now, but there's a very interesting exercise. I want you to look at that. Number 5. It gives a lot of statements, and you have to say whether it refers to Ernest or the poet. Okay, good. So write Ernest or poet against each statement below. Let's do the first one. There was a gap between his life and his words. Poet or Ernest? Ernest or poet? Where was the gap between his life and his words? Good. The poet. Have you written the poet? Good. Let's do the next one. His words had the power of truth as they agreed with his thoughts. Whose words had the power of truth and they agreed with his thoughts? Whose? Poets or Ernest's? Ernest's. Good. That was it. They had the power of thought. Excellent. And so on. So you can do this exercise at home later on. There is a fairly simple exercise down below. It says working with language, and you will find out the meaning of the word given on the left hand column, which all those alternates given there. For example, sun going down, and you get 3 options there. Becoming smaller, weakening, setting. So the sun going down, what is the word? It's a sunset, and therefore the right answer is setting. Good. So you can do the rest of it yourself. Right. Now in exercise 2A, it says read the following sentences. I do hope I will live to see him. He will come, etc. The man will come. Gather gold is arriving tomorrow, people said, and so on. Now in all these sentences, the verbs in the bold type are in different forms, but they suggest 4 very important ways of expressing future time. What is going to happen in future, in the coming days? So I do hope I will love to see him. I will love to see him. He will come. X number 2. B. Ernest, the man, will come. All these things are happening in the future. So this is what we call future time. We are talking in the present and talking about the future, and when we talk about the future today, we use the word will. It will, or it will, it's likely to, and so on and so forth. Number 3, this is a very interesting exercise. Says complete these sentences, this piece of conversation, using will or going to. You can use either will or going to. I'm going to. I will do it. I'm going to. I will see you tomorrow. I'm going to see you tomorrow. Any big difference? Not in conversation, but when you write, sometimes you have to be a little careful about it. Let's look at exercise 1, 3a. Rani, why are you turning on the radio? Ravi says, I dash listen to the news. So you want to say, I will listen to the news, or I'm going to listen to the news. Probably I'm going to listen to the news seems better, and so on. So you can do that exercise now and work with your friends, take turns and work in small pairs, and you can do that entire thing. But we'll now come to a slightly more difficult but a very important exercise. Look at the bottom of the page. Look at the exercise on your screens also. In this exercise, we are going to produce the sound f, where the lower lip is in the bottom of the upper teeth, and it stays there. It's a long sound. It's not f, f, f. No, it's not f. It is f. It's a continuous sound where the air flows out continuously, and you produce the sound f. Say it. F. Good. In this exercise, we'll practice this sound now. Are you ready? Look at that. I will say each word and you repeat after me. Flail. Life. What do you notice here? In the first word, flail, the word begins with the sound f. In the second word, life, it ends with f. So, f is a sound which can come at the beginning of a word or at the end of the word. Shall we practice more now? Right, get ready. Look at the spelling. They all differ. In other words, f is not just f, but other spellings also. So, you will notice that also. For example, the next set of words, Philip. And what is the spelling for f? PH. So, Philip. Puff. Flowed. Are you saying it with me? Good. Deaf. I'm sure you know all these words. Fact. Tough. In Philip, it was PH, and now in tough, what's the spelling there? GH. And so you can see that one sound has different spellings, and here the sound f has a number of other spellings as well. And so let's repeat. Fact. Tough. Fail. Laugh. Fast. Stiff. Did you say them all right? Got the sound f correct? All right. The next exercise is also based on the same sound, and so you can practice this later. We don't need to practice it again, but now at question number 3, it says, imagine that you are the poet and you have come to your hometown and you have come to your own valley to meet a famous preacher called Ernest. So you've come to meet Ernest. You have come. Okay. Now, can you remember something from that meeting with Ernest? And can you narrate it? Can you tell it to your friends? And later on, sit down and you can write about it. Exercise number 4 is a fairly straightforward exercise where you put together the jumbled sentences. You have done lots of exercises like this so far in all these classes, and so you should be able to do that. And later on in exercise number 2 there at the bottom of the page, you can rearrange all of them to frame a paragraph, a good paragraph. Okay. Did you like reading about Ernest? Would you like to be like Ernest? Maybe yes, why not, if possible. But have you seen anyone who is almost like Ernest? Maybe in your family, in your neighborhood, elsewhere. Have you met somebody who is old, wrinkled, noble thoughts, good words, good voice, a smile, elderly, very noble, and so on and so forth? Of course. My task for you is something slightly different now, and I want you to do that. And that is, look at the story. You know the story now. Think about it. Convert this story into a drama. Good. There is Ernest. Who else? The poet. And who else? The people. Right. The people of the village. Imagine the day when the poet, Ernest, and the people are all sitting together and listening to Ernest. And then what happened? What happened to the poet? You know that. And what happened to the people? You know that also. And what happened to Ernest? How was he? You know that. Now that you know all these things, can you convert the story into a play? Yes, you can do that. And at this stage, you should do that. It will be a very interesting exercise, and so you can put both part 1 and part 2 of the story together and prepare the play and play it in your school. The Great Stone Face, 1 and 2. Beautiful, wonderful idea. Good. Now that we have completed the 10 lessons, let me ask you, did you enjoy our lessons? All these 10 lessons? Oh, we enjoyed being with you, certainly. We are very happy to interact with you. And now that we have finished with the lessons in the main text, we shall now move into the supplementary reader. All right? So, very soon we'll come back to you with more lessons from the supplementary reader. It so happened. Okay? Till then, bye.